Putin's recent address to the Russian Defense Ministry Board underscores his dual narrative of triumph and grievance, and he frames 2024 as a pivotal year in achieving Russia's objectives in Ukraine while portraying the US and NATO as existential threats to Russia's sovereignty. Yet beneath the bravado, there are significant challenges that loom over his strategy, including faltering recruitment, economic strains, and the deepening quagmire of Ukraine itself. There are four key themes to his strategy. The first is his concerns about military expansion and recruitment. And despite claims of a surge in recruitment, it's extraordinary. There is no surge. The surge is because he's got people from North Korea. The actual enlistment figures of Russians revealed declining rates, undermining Putin's narrative of overwhelming domestic support for the war. People run away. This discrepancy signals the strain of sustaining a prolonged conflict, especially against growing Ukrainian resistance, and a sense that Russia doesn't really know what it's fighting for. It's fighting for Putin. Well, Putin's in a fridge. Dead. What is it fighting for? It's fighting to defend itself against NATO threats. There are no NATO threats. The only NATO expansion that has occurred has been since Putin invaded Ukraine and threatened the NATO alliance. Secondly, Putin's defensive posture against NATO, Putin's rhetoric about NATO's encroachment and US missile systems indicates a shift towards preparing for a broader military confrontation, and his warnings of lifting restrictions on missile deployment suggest an effort to deter Western escalation while reinforcing Russia's defensive posture in Europe and the Asia-Pacific. Thirdly, his deepening alliances with rogue states and the partnership with North Korea, exemplified by arms deals and troop deployments, provides tactical advantages but comes at a cost to Russia's international standing. Well, when your standing is sort of so high, you can't really get much shorter, can you? Similarly, reliance on Iranian drones highlights Russia's vulnerabilities in maintaining its military supply chains. But that collapse of dominoes running across from Syria, where will that go next? Looks as if it might go to Iran. The fourth point, the economic pressures and the global energy dynamics and sanctions and declining energy revenues strain the Russian economy, and Putin's attempts to circumvent these pressures in leveraging discounted oil deals with allies like India reveal a discrepancy on external support to stabilize Russia's financial footing. And then there's the global gambit, the Trump factor, the flatulence from the USA, and Donald Trump's potential return to the US presidency introduces new variables into Putin's calculus. Trump's transatlantic and transactional approach to foreign policy could pave the way for bilateral negotiations that sideline Ukraine. And Putin hopes there will be reductions in US military aid to Ukraine, recognition of Russian territorial gains, and a relaxation of sanctions on Russian oligarchs and assets. I think he's hoping for rather a lot there. For Putin, this dynamic offers an opportunity to secure concessions that cement Russia's territorial ambitions and undermine NATO unity. However, these gains could come at the expense of long-term strategic stability, particularly if Trump's policy unpredictability alienates European allies or emboldens rival powers like China. There are risks and opportunities for Mr. Putin. There are short-term wins like solidifying control over annexed Ukrainian territories, weakening Western sanctions through potential deals with the Trump-led US administration, strengthening ties with Middle Eastern and Asian powers to offset global isolation. There are long-term risks, the escalation of NATO's military preparedness in response to Russian provocations, the economic stagnation from sustained sanctions and reduced foreign investment, internal dissent as the war drags on without any clear victory, and individual people across Russia feel emboldened somehow. Putin's strategy hinges on maintaining the appearance of strength while navigating the precarious realities of economic constraints, military attrition, and global isolation. And of course, part of this is about the personal power of Putin, PPP, the personal power of Putin. And that's why Putin has to appear to be larger than life. So much larger than life that he actually appears to be alive. He's alive! He's not. He's not. He died long ago, and if he didn't die long ago, he might just as well have done. He abandoned humanity long ago. Let's face the fact. If he's not actually dead in a Smeg fridge, he might just as well be. His soul died with the annexation of Crimea. His obsession with Novorossiya is one obsession too far. And his next moves will likely focus on consolidating gains in Ukraine, leveraging alliances with authoritarian states, and exploiting whatever little shifts in US foreign policy might be discernible under a potential Trump presidency, little cracks in the landscape down which he can burrow. Yet these actions come with significant risks. Any miscalculation could further isolate Russia, weaken its economy, undermine its global influence, leaving Putin's vision of a resurgent Russia increasingly out of reach. The stakes could not really be higher for Putin, for Russia, and for international order itself.